Penguin Random House Audio presents How Far to the Promised Land? One Black family's story of hope and survival in the American South. This is the author, Esau McCaulley. This book is dedicated to my mother, Lori McCaulley. Whatever else I am, I will always remain your son. He also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves, that they were righteous and regarded others with contempt. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, was praying thus: God, I thank you that I'm not like other people, thieves, rogues, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give 1/10 of all my income. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even look up to heaven, but was beating his breast and saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Luke chapter 18, verses 9 to 13. Introduction: Black Narratives and American Dreams. In March 2019, I agreed, after much hesitation, to join a panel at the University of North Carolina. Having committed to a speaking engagement in Tennessee the following evening, I'd initially demurred. But in a last-ditch effort to convince me to come, the organizer informed me that the Grammy Award-winning recording artist Lecrae would be the other speaker and panelist. Providence was with him, because the day coincided with the birthday of my oldest son, Luke, and Lecrae happened to be one of Luke's favorite hip-hop artists. How could I resist? Luke beamed when I told him the plan. He picked out his favorite New England Patriots hoodie for the journey and told all his friends at school, treating 2 days of one-on-one time with his father as the rarity that it was. Seeing him prepare brought to mind an ill-fated road trip of my father that happened when I was around the same age. But I forced that memory to the back of my mind and focused on the present, allowing my son's excitement to overcome the beginnings of melancholy. I noted that he'd remembered to pack his asthma medicine, changes of clothing, and even a pack of gum to keep his ears from popping on the flight. The next day, a friendly volunteer met us at the airport and drove us to campus for a tour. Having left behind the 40-degree chill typical of early spring in Rochester, we enjoyed a warm and breezy walk among the sights and sounds of Chapel Hill. Our student host chatted with Luke, seeming more interested in this youth with the mini afro and articulately stated pre-adolescent opinions than the scholar come to town. Still, despite the pleasant welcome, a campus visit to discuss anti-Black racism carries the tension inherent in any discussion of race. I've been invited to show that Christianity can be a friend rather than a foe of social justice by addressing how faith helps us resolve what W.E.B. Du Bois famously called the problem of the color line. This to a college still reeling from a series of protests in 2018 that climaxed with the tearing down of a Confederate statue on university grounds. Speaking at these events, I sometimes feel like a doctor telling a patient that their illness is more serious than first thought. Recovery will not simply involve taking medication. It must include surgery and a change in lifestyle. The truth stings, making hostility towards the bearer of such bad news inevitable. As I took the stage alongside our host and Lecrae, I looked out at the audience, a gathering of earnest-looking white students with a sprinkling of chocolate bodies. I saw in their posture and stares a familiar mixture of skepticism and hope. I knew what the Black students were thinking. What will he say? Is he here to speak about Black people or to us? Will he tell the truth or curry favor to keep his role as appointed representative of the race? I sat in similar auditoriums as an undergrad, my head stuffed with the writings of James Baldwin, Zora Neale Hurston, Martin Luther King Jr., and a multitude of Bible verses. Part of me longed for those days, when it was easy to imagine that my words and writing would one day prove the truth of anti-Black racism and move people to resist its effects on society. But I was no longer in the audience, nor had I been for quite some time. I felt less sure of myself. Racism persists for a reason, and experience had taught me that a change is not the work of one speech or book. Nonetheless, I did what was asked of me. I tried to bring the teachings of Christianity and my knowledge of Black history, literature, and the African American church to bear on the evening's topic. As the night wore on, my words seemed to have some effect. Audience members who started the evening, pinned to the back of their seats, now leaned forward. The crowd began to respond with applause. My energy was good, no doubt spurred on by the opportunity to make Luke proud. I could see him sitting with a group of college students in the front row, the youngest face among a sea of emerging adults. The Q&As that follow such talks are always tricky. You never know what questions or paradoxes audience members might have for you. To keep the conversation on track, the questions had been screened beforehand. I knew the drill, but towards the end of our time together, it was the host who asked something that stumped me. To help our audience, please tell us about one of the most racist things you have experienced. The question was framed as a way of drawing the audience in. Maybe the questioner thought a dose of pathos was needed to drive home the point that racism is wicked. Still, as a black man speaking to a mostly white audience, I winced. I answered before my fellow panelists had a chance to respond. Can we pass on that one? We'll pass. Until recently, I would have dutifully complied. On stages and in print, I would cut myself open and bleed in hopes that my pain and suffering would help bring justice to my people. It was how I'd been taught to speak. I recall meeting with my guidance counselor near the end of high school and asking, how do I fill out these college applications? What should I put in my scholarship essay? What I meant was, how do I please these white people who have my future in their hands when they've never been in my neighborhood, never stepped into my school, never traveled the streets of Huntsville, Alabama in this dark flesh that is often viewed with suspicion? My counselor, long experienced in such matters, told me to write about all the obstacles I'd faced. Tell them your story and the things you overcame. Make them feel the difference that letting you into school will make in your life. Colleges, she explained, wanted to know they had the opportunity to pluck a branch from the burning fires of poverty before it was consumed. So I learned to tell the story America requires from its black survivors. I wrote about overcoming an absent, drug-addicted father, anti-black racism, and childhood poverty to earn a high school diploma and a shot at higher education. In that version of events, my father and the people I encountered along the way became cautionary tales, the tragic backdrop to my feats of grit and determination. It worked. Despite having adequate but not exceptional grades, I was accepted at a nationally ranked college with generous financial aid. From there, I went on to seminary, graduate school, and a career as a university professor and columnist. The moderator's request carried a predetermined plot. By revealing a horrific experience I had survived, by relating how I've become a more determined person for it, I will be rewarded with the audience's sympathy, just as I had won over the sympathy of the college admissions committees decades earlier. But that night, on stage, I realized something had shifted. I did not want to speak about overcoming racism and poverty as a hero. Nobody escapes poverty. We are marked by it. The friends, relationships, and traumas we experience linger. We carry them wherever we go. And the spotlight in these narratives is too narrow. A good narrative, a black one at least, is not owned by any individual. It is, instead, the story of a people. The focus on a singular person obscures the truth that the gifted are not the only ones who succeed, and the weak are not the only ones who perish. And the America we laud for producing victors still creates too many victims to be at ease with the way things are. Instead of hearing about the worst hardship I experienced, what the audience needed was for me to talk about the community and the family that shaped me, the people normally written out of such stories, and how the struggle in each life to find meaning and purpose, regardless of its outcome, has the chance to teach us what it means to be human. In the end, my declining to answer is what this book is about. What I owe the audience, yes, but my people first and foremost. A story not about me, but about us. My desire to tell my story in a different and truer way had begun 2 years earlier. On the night of August 26, 2017, my father, Esau McCaulley Sr., died unexpectedly. I was 36.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?